Well, one of the most ambitious projects from Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 is the giant NEOM project. It's a vast global business hub, and the line, that's a new 170-kilometer city in a line that will host up to 9 million people.
I am seeing a lot of interest coming in from certain investors in some parts of the world who are ready to jump in with us today and have been.
Majid Mufti is Chief Executive of the NEOM Investment Fund. Majid, welcome. First of all, we need to understand what the investment fund is. It was started in October 2023.
That's correct. It was a year ago that we've launched the NEOM Investment Fund. And NIF is essentially the investment arm of NEOM. What we do there is we help and support the sectors in NEOM. So we've got 15 economic sectors. That's energy, food, water, media. And all of these sectors require a lot of partnerships to be forged in order for them to help build out NEOM.
So this is the next stage of NEOM's development?
Correct. And so the first stage is the regional development.
Which is the physical stuff?
Which is the physical stuff, the real estate development. You've got Oxagon, which is the industrial city. You've got Trojena, which is the mountainous region. We just recently launched Sindala, which is a new destination for yachting. And we've got the line as well as Magna across the Aqaba coast. These are the physical assets and the master developments that are taking place within NEOM. Across that are 15 economic sectors. And those sectors include everything that we need to help jumpstart an economy. The NIF is the investment arm that supports the sectors in terms of all their transaction needs. So everything that has to do with developing joint ventures, acquisitions, long-term strategic partnerships, as well as venture capital for the acquisition of technology, is centralized into the NIF to support all 15 sectors accordingly.
Now, this was a giant plan. It's been going several years. It's about building it so far.
Yeah.
That was done with state support and state funding. What is different now and what you're leading on?
We're coming to that inflection point where we feel more comfortable now to bring in third-party capital. The way that's happening is at the project level. So part of what we do is we are putting out to the market different infrastructure projects around energy, around water, around TMT.
So you propose?
We put out business plans to say, we're going to need energy storage, pumped hydro storage, for example, wastewater management, district cooling. We'll put that into the market from a BOT perspective or a PPP concession. And that's where we'll have developers and investors and financiers come in a consortium to help invest into that project.
Now, what kind of investments have you made to date? What's the track record?
To date, we've done a lot of venture capital investments. So on the VC side,
they're happening.
They're done. We've closed about 9 investments. This year, we're closing another 6. I've just received approval for another 3 before the year end.
Are there any limitations you're putting on investment?
The only limitation is that we would like to be a strategic investor, which is that there's something to be done with the companies. So we already start to prescribe what type of work we do post the transaction, early on. But I think that's very much welcomed by the sector, by the portfolio companies or by the startups, because it gives them an opportunity to demonstrate what they have to the world.
Now, are you going for investment from within the kingdom or outside as well?
Both. We're agnostic as to where the technology comes from. We're looking for eager people who are willing to go into daring technologies, understand what's required, go into frontier and deep tech, and like-minded individuals who are willing to take that risk with us.
What kind of trend are you seeing of interest, even if it hasn't yet been crystallized into investment?
Well, I think, a lot of it is coming in the digital world. It's nothing of a surprise. AI is changing and revolutionizing the world that we live in. Financial services will ultimately get there. I think we are talking about regulation and how people feel comfortable about technologies and financial services. And that'll be quite an interesting realm for us to get into. But in the meantime, we've started to make a lot of investments in the mobility space.
What does that mean?
Well, NEOM needs to be inducing sustainability and environment friendliness across every facet of the way we conduct our business and the way we transport people around. And so when we think of not just the line and the urban development revolution that's taking place there, but even across the different regions within NEOM, transporting people in a way that is using electric generation, autonomous, futuristic. These are some of the investments that we have already started to put money into.
Now the world is very dynamic, and that means you've got to be flexible and nimble and be changing as well, like the world is changing. What kind of changes are you making and adjustments are you having to make?
I think one of the main changes that's taking place is something that moves and commensurate with human behavior, human needs. We're seeing an aging population. We're seeing a younger, more ambitious population that's looking to try to develop themselves, wanting to have optionalities. And when we get into that realm, we start to think about what platforms are we looking to have as services that could be at the fingertips of people within NEOM's and the line. The line is meant to be a cognitive city. And with a cognitive city, there are an incredible...
A cognitive city?
Correct.
Help understand what that means. Put it in simple English.
A cognitive city is different than a smart city. A smart city will provide things that are more efficient. A cognitive city starts to identify the needs and desires of an individual and addresses those head on. And what that means is, once they understand your digital profile, they will know that Ian is looking to spend the evening on the weekends in this place, so it would already have made suggestions, already made bookings, already have made your life much easier. That is ultimately the utopia that one wants to get to, and with that requires a whole host of information and needs of understanding what your preferences would be.
Just finally, we're seeing change in a lot of cities, but you've got the advantage, you're literally starting from scratch in the desert, on the sea, on the Red Sea. What has been the experimentation which you've found compelling? What has really worked, and what is really very exciting for you as you try and attract investment?
I mean, what we're seeing is that there's an incredible opportunity for us to leverage the way in which we construct the city. And so, it's not just about the end result, but it's how you get there. And so when we think of construction, there's an incredible amount of new ways of how we can construct, more efficient ways, more sustainable ways.
And you're learning about them as you go along.
We're learning about it, but we're also investing into it. And we're bringing in traditional large multinational partners who are also of the same view as to how can we do things better, but now they have a client who's actually very eager to get there. And between the both of us, we can develop more automation and more efficiency in how we build and construct. And so that is an opportunity that is unleveraged as much as people would like, given the scale of what NEOM is, a $500 billion project. There is huge opportunity and upside for us to do things in a new revolutionary way.
Well, Majid, you are the chief executive. Where do you think you're going to be in a year or two? Not 10 or 20 years, but a year or two, given the pace, the speed, the urgency, and the determination there is to make NEOM a success?
Look, and I think in the next couple of years, we'll have a lot more venture capital investment opportunities for us to get into, because the technologies that we're needing become a lot more apparent. We're going to have more infrastructure development projects for people to participate into. We're going to attract and need to invest into startups and businesses that can house them in Oxagon in the industrial advanced manufacturing cluster, so that'll be ready for it. And everything that comes alongside that in terms of supporting businesses and supply chains are an opportunity for us to either participate or help turbocharge where we can invest.
But I've got to ask you, are there limits? I mean, in the end, Riyadh Air hasn't started flying aircraft yet, and there's still internal constraints on getting to NEOM, on driving and so on.
So I've been in NEOM, I'm coming up to 4 years now. And back in the days, yes, I used to have to drive into a town and fly into a town and then drive for 2 hours. Today, NEOM has its own airport, which flies into London, into Qatar, into Istanbul, into Cairo, into Dubai. We've got daily flights from Riyadh. So connectivity is improving and continues to improve. There's only one way up.
But creating a home for 9 million people, that's an enormous number of people you've got to handle very quickly.
And it starts with the very first step, which is quite small, but then we are on the right trajectory.
What would you say to investors who are wondering, they're hovering, but need to be persuaded? What would you say to them?
I say that I am seeing a lot of interest coming in from certain investors in some parts of the world who are ready to jump in with us today and have been. And you're right, there are other investors in the West mainly who are on the fringes, and I'm worried that they might miss out on the opportunities of what would be interesting early on. So I would say, let's continue having dialogues. Please come and visit us in NEOM. Let's demonstrate what the opportunities are. Sindala's launch was an incredible success, and that's the first showcase of a destination at NEOM. We have many more to come in the next several years.
Well, Majid Mufti, good luck. You're Chief Executive of the NEOM Investment Fund. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.